Beavemanites and Docutrons, assemble!
Okay, so back in the day, I was way above the wave, and I traded in the girls for the video games. I played so much Super Smash Bros. Other kids called me names. They called me Mike Tyson's.
No shit. There I was, Beavemanites and Docutrons and Renegade Beaver Studios, and I welcome you to this fine podcast that is Beaveman in the Dock. And I am the Beaveman. With me today is the beautiful Swan and the handsome and stylish Tremonde. And of course,
Handsome and stylish.
I know.
That's great.
I like it.
I like
also
it.
Paper Doc. You can't do a podcast without some sort of doc. Isn't that right, Doc? Well, that's absolutely correct, Beaveman, and thank you for... Okay, well...
That's enough of paper dog
That's
for
enough
the
of
day.
All right.
We have, what is he? The beautiful and elegant? No, that's not what you said. But
I said the handsome and stylish.
handsome and stylish.
yes.
Yes. Beautiful and elegant.
I like both of them.
You like both of those? Eloquent? Eloquent's good.
Yeah.
Just as a side bit of thing, here's something that I noticed. Do you ever dress for the just in case? So when I go to hop in the car or when I leave, all right, I try to make sure that I'm wearing everything that would be fitting in case we had like an invasion or like a zombie apocalypse. Do you either of you do that?
No, I try to
No.
wear clean underwear.
You just wear clean underwear?
Yes.
And go to the bathroom before I leave. Because my grandma says, go to the bathroom before you leave.
Okay, well, I usually look at what type of footwear I'm wearing. Is it something that I could run in? Is it something that I could kick somebody's face in? Is it something that's not too heavy for me to lift above my waist? Is it something that would last a long time? With my pants, I want to make sure that they're versatile. I make sure I got a belt. But something that I've noticed when I take like the daughter to school is that a lot of times I'll put Crocs on, and I don't think Crocs are combat ready.
No, Crocs are definitely not
do you
combat
dress
ready.
to be combative?
Just in case.
You never know. So people of Walmart are not going to see you on their camera because you're not going to wear pajama pants and flip-flops. That's what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I dress just in case. So I dress for long term. Okay, so the last thing you want to do is encounter a zombie apocalypse wearing Crocs. Right? You can't run in Crocs. You can't fight in Crocs.
They're going to wear out really fast. Crocs.
Well, they're going to wear out really fast. You're not going to get good distance with Crocs. They're going to fly off your feet. These are so you don't think about any of
They're
these things.
slippery in
in
mud. They're not very, yeah.
I dress for the occasion, but that is never one of my occasions.
That's never.
So,
It's
I
not
don't-
an occasion that you worry about.
No.
Okay.
So
Well, and
start packing your backpack.
I know.
Well, for example, like with pants, right? If I'm going to wear pants, I want to make sure that they're not going to fall down. So I wear a belt. So because if I had to fight, I don't want my pants to slightly fall down if I have to fight or run. So that's why I wear a belt. Plus, you can
And-
take off your belt and use it as a weapon.
Or a tourniquet.
Sure.
I didn't see that as well. But then why not just buy fitted pants?
Fitted pants? What
Yes.
are fitted pants?
Like a pant that fit you in the waist where you don't need a belt to
He has
hold
no
up your
butt.
pants.
Well, no, you have to have room in the waistband for your gun.
Okay, now we're adding other. First it was just shoes and pants, and now we're adding in weapons.
Well, you have to have some roominess in the waist. First of all, I don't like a tight waist in the first place.
Okay.
Okay. So I like to be able to pull it a bit out from my waist so it's nice and comfortable. So like 2 fingers, right?
Okay.
But I also have to be able to fit my gun in my waist. That's why.
See, I don't have one of those either, so not something that I.
Not something that you worry about.
But you also have a butt, so your pants stay up.
True. Which
Well,
is
this
the
is why I
problem.
don't wear my gun on my back because it
Right.
will pull my pants down. So, okay, so we've just established that nobody worries about that.
Well, you do.
Yeah.
Right.
There's probably others that are like you.
I'm sure there are other people that
Maybe
are
your
like
one
me.
listener does.
I'm sure that I'm actually not the exception. I'm probably the rule.
You're not the minority in this.
I'm probably not. Okay, well, now that I've got that established. So what we're doing today is we're actually doing a 3-way recording. I've got the Swan, I've got Tremonde. Tremonde and I are on the Mac, so I can actually see what we're recording and all that good stuff. And the Swan is on the iPad, and we're trying that because it's too much to put 3 mics on my iPad, on my Mac, that is. So are you getting good waves and it's
I
still
don't know.
recording?
I think so.
and all
When
that
I
good
talk,
stuff?
it is. It looks good.
It's still
Yeah, it's going. It's moving.
still going up there. Okay, great. So hopefully we're not screwing this up. All right, I'll find out later. All right, so this episode is dedicated to the brilliant and entertaining folks that are responsible for bringing us my favorite podcast. Wait, yeah, this isn't my favorite. This particular podcast. I like ones with talent. The last podcast on the left is my favorite podcast. And that is from the participants of that podcast are Marcus Parks, Ben Kissel, and Henry Zabrowski. So maybe someday they'll listen and want me to be a part of their network, which would be pretty cool. But I seriously doubt that's going to happen. So Beef Man in the Dock is not a true crime podcast. Our listener
Yes, we have one listener, maybe two.
knows that we talk about random topics. I do enjoy true crime. I could never compete with the latest podcast crew, and as we all know as podcast listeners, there are plenty of podcasts out there that tackle that subject already, whether they're good or not. So what sets Beef Man in the Dock apart as a podcast in general? I don't know. That's a good question. How the hell do I know? And by the way, today's episode, did I already bring it to a... Did I
No.
already use the letter L? I did.
You
didn't
did
I?
use the letter L last time,
What,
and I
what
didn't get
letter
it, remember?
should we be... what letter should this podcast be brought to you by?
Let's do B.
The letter B? Okay, so what examples of the letter B do you have?
Bofa.
That would... Okay. How about you be tripping?
You be tripping. Sure.
I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
Or as Tremonde might say, no, that'd be stereotyping. How would you say I'm going to be all right?
I'm going to be all right.
Oh, damn you!
No. Is that how would I say I'm going to be all right?
Like,
Yes.
yeah, I'll be all right.
I just say I'm all right.
I mean, I. There's no B in that one.
No.
No, it's I'm going to be all right.
I'll be all
No.
right.
That's one word. I'm going to be all right.
No, he didn't say that at all.
I'm gonna be all right.
I'm going to be all right.
I guess that fits as well. I'm gonna be all right as one word.
Yeah.
Be all right.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be all right.
See, you guys are just aren't enough redneckish, I guess. So, brought to us by the letter B. And if it sounds like I'm reading some of this off a script, it's because I'm reading some of this off of a script. It's actually an outline. So today I bring you part 1 of Secret Witness, the untold story of the 1967 bombing in Marshall, Michigan, by the author Blaine L. Pardoe. Shout out to you, Mr. Pardoe, if you also listen to my podcast.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe he's the one listener.
Yeah. So Marshall, Michigan is a little town like many others in the Midwest. I grew up not far from there, as did Doc. Yeah, that's actually true, babe, man. I did grow up not that far from there. I grew up in a little place. Okay. He was about to tell us where he grew up.
No one cares.
No one cares. Paper Doc. I can remember going there as a teenager to cruise the strip in my 1972 Ford Maverick Grabber. I also remember going to the county fair there with my friend, who's passed away, my friend Lonnie. So I got some fond memories of that town. In later years, the Hispanic population increased there in comparison to my hometown that had me. And I often joke that I wish I would have grown up there. And one of my most favorite restaurants as a kid was a little greasy spoon of a Mexican restaurant called Emilio's, and that was in Battle Creek, just down the road from Marshall. And when the owner passed away, one of his former employees opened a restaurant that served his same recipes. And that restaurant is in Marshall, Michigan to this day. And every couple of years, I go there and consume some seriously fatty Mexican food made by gringos. And so I'm just establishing a connection to Marshall, Michigan.
Yeah, but they have really good tortillas dipped in butter.
Yeah, they just run with butter. And I've actually been in the past, and I don't think it wasn't at the one there, but I can have memories of people asking for extra butter on their tortillas when I was a kid.
It's so buttery as it is. It drips down your arm while you're eating it.
Yeah, to your
It's
elbow.
so greasy. Yeah, but delicious.
It is delicious. One of the most annoying things about cruising Marshall was their little traffic circle, which that was my first experience with traffic circles. Now they seem to be popping up everywhere. And as a teenager, I can remember going there for the first time and just not understanding the traffic circle. Not that I understand it now. And I asked my friend Tom to do the driving around the circle. So I still remember meeting some girls who had a Dodge Daytona Turbo that day and racing back on the highway. So I was born in 1973 as a point of reference, and our story takes place in 1967. Okay. Our resource for this podcast is the book Secret Witness, The Untold Story of the 1967 Bombing in Marshall, Michigan, as I mentioned, by Blaine Pardoe. And as stated by the author, some names have been changed in the telling of this story, but the main characters have not been. And I'll point it out to you if I feel like it, if it's instrumental to the story, but most likely I'm not going to point it out if it's a name change or not because I really don't care.
And you might not even know. Do you know?
I don't know.
No.
I know the main
But
characters are
I
the
do
same.
know that Marshall, like maybe people don't know. Marshall, everybody knows everybody in Marshall, especially at that time. Like the whole town knows everybody. They're related to somebody or they've lived there their whole lives. And I don't know, that seems relevant to this story.
Well, when I look at the statistics for the listener of Beat Man in the Dock, that person is not from Marshall. Marshall has never popped up on my stats board as a city.
Okay.
Not Battle Creek.
So people
has.
don't know this then.
Right. So I'm giving
So
this out
everybody
to
knows
listeners.
everybody in Marshall.
Right. Let's see. So the story. No, that's probably the wrong beginning. The story begins with a postman named Donald Damon going about his daily deliveries on Friday, August 18th of 1967. It's a small town, as I mentioned, and the author does a good job of painting a picture of members of a community that are familiar with one another. The postman has a route he's familiar with, and he is greeted by members of the community as he goes about his deliveries. He goes so far as to say that you could set your watch by the postman. The town was preparing for the annual Calhoun County Fair that marked the end of the summer. I don't know how big fairs are for all over the country, but it's kind of a big deal in farming communities.
Yeah, I didn't ever go to that growing up. I never knew any of that. We didn't have
Was it
that.
because sheep are prevalent at the fair?
I don't know, perhaps. Sheep are disgusting. They wallow around in their own poop. It gets stuck to their fur. I had to do that when I was in Girl Scouts.
You had to have shit stuck to your fur?
I did. No, I had to go shear sheep and make wool. I wanted to vomit. It was disgusting. Definitely Tremonde would have been right up there next to me vomiting.
Pretty much. But I just went to the Calhoun County Fair this past year for the first time, and it was pretty great. And then we went to the one in Allegan, and you also saw
They
sheep
clean their
and-
sheep before they bring them to those. They're not wallowing around in their own
So then
poo
you've
there.
been to Marshall.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Marshall at that time was described as a town stuck in the past. So if
think
you've
it
been there
probably still
recently, it's basically still stuck in the past. It's not a big city. On that fateful day in 1967, Don, the postman, as I will refer to him, stepped into the Tasty Cafe located at 209 East Michigan Avenue. It was a typical cafe of the times, L-shaped counter that extended to the rear of the restaurant, tables and booths, jukebox. The rear of the restaurant had a large refrigerator and a small office area. Don noted that there were 3 customers in the cafe at the time. The owners of the cafe, Paul and Nola Poyer, and if I pronounced that incorrectly, my apologies, were present. Paul was 62 years old at the time. He was the short order cook and co-owner with his wife Nola. Nola was 10 years younger than Paul. She spoke with a southern drawl. The couple had been born and raised in Arkansas. Nola was wearing a plain dress, grandmotherly glasses, and a food-spattered apron that day. She was described as a plump and church-going woman who was pleasant and warm and friendly to all. Don had a package for Nola that day. It was wrapped in plain brown paper and was roughly the size of a book. The package was labeled with the words, "Books," in large red block letters. There was no return address on the package. Don handed the mail and the package to Paul Poyer, who gave it a shake. There was a clunk-clunk noise. Nola asked Paul what it was. He replied that he did not know. She then asked him to give her the package. The postman heard her make a comment about it possibly being sent by John, her son, whom was stationed in the Air Force out of state. And then Don went about the rest of his day to make his deliveries. A customer by the name of Ed Bowman was drinking his coffee while he waited for his breakfast. He remembered seeing Nola take the package to the rear of the restaurant as Paul continued to work the grill. And another patron, Richard Lockwood, also recalled seeing Nola take a neatly wrapped package to the rear of the restaurant. Nola turned her back to the patrons and began to open the package on a small workspace by the refrigerator. Ed heard her say, "This is a big surprise," and "oh." And we can only speculate what she was thinking at that time. Possibly she was pleasantly surprised at getting a package, or shocked at the contents. But no one will ever know what Nola thought, because immediately after, the package exploded. The force of the explosion tore apart the rear of the cafe, destroyed the refrigerator, and killed Nola Poyer. The blast was so devastating that it literally blew her in half. Nola had shielded the patrons inadvertently, but thankfully with her body, and had she not done so, there most likely would have been multiple casualties.
That's kind of sad and fucked up all at the same time.
Well, yeah. I mean, Can you imagine now how many packages are delivered?
Yeah. Well, and back then we didn't have all the security that we have now with packages and all that stuff. So it could have been anything delivered. So, yeah.
Well, who knows what kind of security we have with packages delivered now.
Right?
When you watch some of the testimonials or the documentaries, and when the postal workers talk about all the stuff that comes through the mail, specifically like drugs, they catch very few of the bad things that come.
Scary.
Yeah,
Definitely
that's scary.
scary. Yeah. And just think that postman carried it around with him for who knows how long. It could have exploded on him.
Right, exactly. I mean, probably after he found out, maybe he shit his pants a little bit.
I would have. I bet you what she was thinking. She said, oh. She was probably thinking, oh, fuck. That's probably what she was thinking.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't know. Obviously, she was very surprised at whatever the contents happened to be. But, let's see. The blast had knocked Ed Bowman onto the floor. It deafened the other patrons, blasted out the glass front windows, and wreaked havoc on the structures inside the restaurant. Richard Lockwood was knocked around, but otherwise okay. Ears ringing, but okay. Paul was seemingly uninjured as well, but confused. He shouted to a patron in the restaurant that Nola was still in the restaurant. The patron, Donald Page, followed Paul back into the restaurant. When Paul saw the remains of Nola, he started screaming. This is pretty amazing, actually, when you think about it. So if they had this bomb blow up in this small area and only Nola was killed, it's pretty amazing because just the force of anything, what we call, like the trauma effect, or like, for example, when you're working in a trauma room and somebody comes in and they're dead and they look completely normal, well, there's an energy transference anytime something occurs. So if you get into a car accident, the energy that's transferred from you hitting the car into something else, that energy has to go somewhere, and it usually goes to the softest thing. So what's the softest thing in a car?
A human.
A human. So you can get people that are dead and they look perfectly fine. You're like, well, I wonder what happened to them. Most likely they sheared their aorta or something crazy like that, and that's why they died. Because all that energy transfer goes to them. So that blast went into Nola. If she wouldn't have taken the brunt of that blast, I would imagine probably most of the people would have been pretty well, at least
And
fucked
she
up
was
a little
by
bit.
the refrigerator, so maybe that helped too.
Some impact,
And shielded
right.
her, and
Exactly.
it blew her apart, so clearly it came out of her as well.
And there's going to be times too, like when I read this, when I start talking about like some of the evidence and the things that happened and the things that were done, just feel free to interject at any time. Let's see. So the blast was heard throughout many areas of the town and by persons going about their day. Of course, they didn't know what it was. The postman heard it also, but he had no idea that he'd been carrying a bomb and that he had just delivered that bomb to Nola Poyer. He assumed there had been a gas leak explosion when he witnessed the disturbance, but still went on with his rounds. He assumed he would hear about it later, and that seems odd to me. So I kind of put myself in the footsteps, in the shoes of the postman, and I'm reading this in the book that it talks about him going about the rest of his deliveries. So if I lived in a small town and I just thought I heard a gas explosion, would I go about the rest of my day? I mean, are gas explosions that super common?
I don't know.
And if
We
you're
had
in
a house
if you're close with people in the town, wouldn't you be worried if somebody got hurt?
I don't know, but maybe he's on a schedule and people want their mail. Like our neighborhood gets into a tizzy when our mail's not delivered on time, and they post it on the Facebook page. Is the mail running late? Like, I mean, maybe he was just going about his day to get his day done, and he didn't think it was anything going on. I mean,
Okay, well, I grew up in a small town. You did not.
I did not.
You grew up basically in Detroit.
I grew up in Detroit, and I was going to tell you that we had probably like 8 houses down from our house. This house, all of us, it shook the whole entire freaking block. This guy was lighting his pilot light on his hot water heater, and it blew up. Like, he died, but you could feel it shake. Everybody went on about their day. They just thought it was something happening in Detroit. But maybe that's just Detroit and how it goes.
Well, Tremonde grew up in Flint.
Right. And so I think it could be very much so like a culture thing of how people respond to those things. However, still from what I see of Marshall today, it still seemed like a very like close knit. And so, as you said, like it seemed like he would have went back to check and see what had occurred.
Right. And I grew up in a town that had a population of like 1,100. So even though I didn't like the people in that town, I still knew most everybody in that town. And if you were in that town and you heard an explosion,
Right.
You were going to see if everybody was okay. It wasn't you were, oh, let's all go about our day. You can call that being nosy or a good neighbor or whatever, but there was no way that if you heard that people weren't going to be investigating what was going on. I just thought it was odd that the postman was going about his day.
Okay, I see
Maybe
that now
that's the
that you say it
suspicion
like
in
that.
me.
Yeah. So you think maybe he might be involved in it?
Don't know.
That's a good theory. Good theory.
As you can imagine, the scene in the restaurant was clearly a grisly one. We can also deduce that due to the nature of this crime, small town folk and police forces were clearly puzzled and jumping through their asses to figure out what the fuck was going on and what they needed to do. The area of the explosion was later measured as a 6 by 11 feet area. Law enforcement arrived, an ambulance service, and later the local mortician. Law enforcement did their best to secure the area to preserve evidence and keep the general public from wandering the scene.
So I don't know anything about bombs, but is that like a good bomb? I mean, he did a good job. He clearly accomplished, whoever did it, accomplished what they wanted, but is that a good blast radius?
Well, I can't answer that question because I was not trained to kill just one person.
Okay.
So if I'm going to, quote, make a bomb, it would have to be leveling stuff out.
Okay.
You know, take out a building, take out a large amount of people. That's about the equivalent of, I guess you could say that the blast radius of a hand grenade is probably, and if any listeners can correct me on this that are,
Listener?
know about that, that's about like a hand grenade.
Okay.
And even a hand grenade, though, will throw shrapnel at a certain radius to get some people. But that's, I would say, is about hand grenade size.
So maybe there was a hand grenade in there that when she opened it, it exploded?
No, I'm just saying, we're talking about how many people was this intended to take
Right.
out, and it does sound like it was probably intended to take out maybe one or two people, not like what I would
whole
consider,
City.
not what I would
Okay.
consider effective.
Right.
Okay.
No. More like it's targeted. It wasn't planning on taking out,
large
not like
group.
Timothy McVeigh blowing up the entire face of, a building,
Okay.
that sort of thing. So a small bomb, a well-planned or well-thought-out, obviously,
Very much so.
target.
Yeah.
Let's see. So here's the other thing that I thought was interesting. So prior to the explosion, there was a call for the fire department to go to contain a mattress fire. And this isn't mentioned again really in any other context in the book, only to explain why the fire department personnel were not at full strength to respond to the bombing. And I find that interesting.
Yeah, that kind of is interesting. Like maybe.
But
the
it's not
person-
mentioned again.
Okay.
So I think this is, and the reason why I think this is interesting is like it's kind of coincidental that a call went out just before this bomb went off that split the fire department in half because they are responding somewhere else.
Good question.
Okay, shoot.
Is it ever said who made the call?
No.
Okay. And you may have said this, maybe I didn't catch it. These people who were sitting in the cafe that received the package were just customers.
The one who the postman gave the initial package to Paul, who's the husband, who's the owner of the restaurant. Him and Nola own the restaurant.
Okay.
Paul shook it and then gave it to Nola, and Nola opened it.
Okay. So it was I would assume that it was to be delivered to that establishment, not to like their personal home.
No, because I read the book, it was meant to be delivered to their home address, but because he knows them, he took it to their work address. Right? That's correct, right?
Right, and because that's a common occurrence in a small town, and people would assume, the bomber would have assumed that's what would have happened.
Like that
Is
was
that-
normal and
Right.
courtesy for him, the postman,
Right,
to take.
right.
Oh, you're getting a package, not just your bills. We're going to take it
And
to
you're
your
not home.
Right.
I'll bring it to you. Okay.
Yep. So there's a passage in the book where the author talks about the presence of mind of the owner-operator of the local ambulance service. He was kind enough to drape the remains of Nola, whether to protect her dignity or spare others of the gruesome sight. As an NP and a former trauma nurse, my bet is he was preserving her dignity and giving her the respect that she deserved. That's not an uncommon thing to do. One of the first officials on the scene was a member of the local law enforcement, Assistant Police Chief Harold Reese. Initially, it was thought that it was a gas explosion, but as soon as Harold entered, he could tell that it was not the case. He could taste the tang of gunpowder on the back of his tongue. As Marshall's law enforcement was not equipped to deal with a crime of this nature, they requested assistance. Help came quickly. Sergeant Fred Ritchie of the Calhoun County Sheriff's Department arrived and preserved the scene and assisted with crowd control. Marshal Officer John Carroll was summoned as the official photographer and to interview Paul Poyer along with another officer. At the time, there were no bomb squads. This was 1967, and it would have been difficult to find a local investigator that had ever worked a bomb case. Don Damon, the postman, continued his rounds. I already talked about. That's a little bit odd for me. He actually encountered a member of the community that said he had delivered a bomb to Nola Poyer. There's another part that I think is odd. Yet he put no credence in this statement. He returned to the post office around 10:25 and was about to go back out on his route when the postmaster informed him about what had happened. Not long after, he was with the police and providing them with everything he knew about the events leading up to the bombing.
Okay, so that's kind of messed up because he just acted like nothing was wrong when he heard that. I feel like at that point I would have might have freaked out that I was the one who gave her a bomb.
Well, yeah, it's not like the guy said, "Hey, dude, you just delivered a bomb. Yuck, yuck, yuck."
Yeah, no, I feel like that's kind of messed up. Like, maybe he was in shock. I don't know. But I feel like even so, you're like, I can't go on with my day knowing that I just killed somebody. Even though he might have not known who was in there and he didn't maybe intend to do it. But even still, I think that would have messed me up a little bit, not to just go out and deliver the mail.
It would have done. It seemed like it would have done enough for him to at least call in and say, "I cannot finish this route today. Please have someone else come and release me." And
or at least verify if that was true or not.
Right. Well, that's what bothers me. If you're delivering, if you know something happened, like this gas leak, you heard this loud explosion, and you're doing your delivery route, and somebody that you know says, "Dude, you delivered a bomb, and Nola's dead," and he just goes about his day and puts no credence in the statement, it's not something that you would joke about to the postman.
Can you read this statement one more time?
Which one? So he delivered a bomb. He delivered. Somebody in the community says to him, "Hey, you delivered a bomb to Nola," and he didn't put any credence in the guy's statement, and then just kept doing his deliveries until he went back to the post office to start his deliveries again. But yet nobody looks at the postman throughout the whole book.
Yeah, he's like an accomplice now at this point. But I guess he's getting interviewed by the police now, right?
Right.
Maybe. Okay. Anyway, okay.
So he just gives them all the details. It doesn't really say anything else. It just says that he gave them all the details of what led up to the bombing. That's it. Okay. So here's another thing that I found annoying, because I find a lot of things annoying. The day after the bombing, the Marshall Evening Chronicle ran this editorial, which I'll read to you as reported in the book, and when I'm done, I'd like your opinion on the article. Me. A shocking tragedy. The mysterious explosion at the Tasty Sandwich Shop, 209 East Michigan Avenue, has shocked countless Marshallites. A bombing of this type isn't unusual in Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York City, or any other large city in America. But last Friday's local bombing was something that most residents said simply couldn't happen here. City police, firemen, state police attachés, and the FBI are to be congratulated for their prompt start of investigation at the tragedy scene. The big question of this tragedy: who sent the bomb? We are sure the officials will do their utmost to find a quick solution to the deadly crime. Mr. and Mrs. Paul Poyer were highly respected citizens of the community. As usual in a case of this sort, Dame Rumor, who the fuck that is, starts operating swiftly. You can count on local authorities investigating each and every tip they receive. And without a doubt, Friday's bombing will be the biggest news story of the year, and it definitely threw the entire city into a state of confusion. We hope there is a quick solution to the tragedy, which never should have happened, in the relatively quiet county seat. My comment to that was, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's okay in Detroit, but not Marshall.
Right.
Or Chicago, but not Marshall. That's a little messed up. Like, they're too good for bombings.
Well, that's not even the point. The point is, he said a bombing of this type isn't unusual in Detroit, Chicago, all these cities. What the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah. Do we have regular bombings?
No, there are... Okay. I did an internet search. Duh. Bombings, not common then. I did a quick search on the internet, and there was a period of time in 1969 when there were 8 bombings in New York City.
After 1967?
Yes, after night, Riri, moron, douchebag. Where did you get your information that bombings were common in the cities?
Apparently, that's a stereotype that small town people have. Don't move to Detroit. It's a bad city. Live in our little close knit community. Really? Is that it? Is that what you're thinking?
That was stupid.
Like, that is stupid. So, yeah, no, that was dumb.
Very.
Y'all can't bomb around here. This ain't where you bomb, y'all. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's see. This case clearly proved to be a challenge because of the multiple jurisdictions that would be involved. Law enforcement of Marshall, the Michigan State Police, Calhoun County Sheriff Department, and the Post Office, because it's a federal crime delivered by the Post Office.
Right.
Okay. I'll give you a little description of the Poyers. Nola Poyer was younger than Paul. They were both from Arkansas, where they met. They were well liked by the community, kind and generous, warm and friendly as a person. This is Nola. She was a restaurant owner and a community member. Customers and coworkers, friends saw no indicators from Nola that she was worried about anything. Early in the investigation, there were no suspicions that she was fearful or concerned about her well-being. She was not at odds with Paul. The restaurant was her life. And according to Paul's brother, though, Mark, Nola's brother had recently passed away and had an Nola's brother had recently passed away and had an estate worth $1.2 million.
That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, Nola was to receive part of $300,000 after splitting her with her sister. And apparently that would be like $1.5 million in today's money, according to a little conversion thing that I looked at online. So that provides a motive.
So who would want to kill her now?
I don't know. Paul was Nola's husband. He was liked by the community and Nola's senior by like 10 years. John Poyer was the son of Nola and Paul. He was in the Air Force at the time of the bombing. He was not trained in explosives. His specialty was in recreation and athletics. I don't know what the fuck that means. I can say from my own personal experience, this book was recommended to me by John several years ago. He didn't do it. He loved his mom. I haven't seen him for years, but I doubt much has changed. And the events of the loss of his mother and the violence of the crime still bother him, as the last time I saw him.
And still.
Well, I haven't seen him, so I don't know. All right. The investigative team. Detective Kenny and Detective Steinbacher of the Michigan State Police from Battle Creek's Post were in charge of the investigation. Detective Donald Bennett of the State Police Crime Lab, Assistant Chief Harold Reese, of the Marshall Police, Postal Inspectors Minor Myers, Matthew Reinhardt, and Myron Wood, Sergeant Fred Ritchie from the Calhoun County Sheriff's Department. And of note, when the investigation first kicked off, the lead investigators asked Sergeant Ritchie, because he's from that area and he knows the people, if he knew of anyone capable of the crime. And the only person that came to his mind was an individual by the name of Enoch Chisholm. Let's see, we've got James Dabowski, the director of the Post Office Laboratories, who is a handwriting expert. Captain Wallace Van Stratt from the Michigan State Police, also a handwriting expert. And it is estimated that the handwriting experts viewed over 50,000 samples of handwriting and collaborated with each other on any potential hits that they had.
So they just ask everybody in Marshall to write their name, or what? How do they get these handwriting samples?
Well, they have title companies.
Oh, that's
They've
good.
got where you get your license, Secretary of State,
Everybody's signature.
everybody's signature.
Okay.
The post office has access to your signatures. So they had it.
So I guess they got samples. Okay.
They got samples. Plus, it's not like they didn't pull everybody in. They pulled in everybody in the area that might have had that had ever been a past criminal, had outstanding warrant, anything. Not outstanding warrants.
There's no criminals in Marshall, though.
Right.
They don't do that.
Right, exactly.
They don't have bombings either.
They don't have bombings.
They also don't have bombings. All right. So let's see. So right after the bombing, Paul was taken to Oaklawn Hospital for treatment. His injuries were not life-threatening, which people in the town thought was odd. They figured that because Paul wasn't injured seriously, that made him a suspect also. Yeah, really. He was in hysterics. Apparently, he received some medications for sedation to calm him, and he was heard to utter phrases questioning why anyone would want to hurt Nola. That was a question that everyone was asking. He was questioned initially about the package, and he described the package, the writing, the fact that there was no return address. He did not believe that there was anyone that had any reason to harm Nola. A key piece of information he remembered was that Nola had received a package approximately 6 months prior to that contained a bottle with pills. This package did not have a return address either. He believed it was still in the restaurant. Apparently, he had also complained to the postal officials locally and went with them, though later interviews with the postal workers would deny remembering such a meeting. So clearly, in most murder investigations, one considers the spouse as the prime suspect. There was some money that Nola was possibly going to get. And again, like I said, everybody in the town, not everybody, but people thought it was suspicious that he didn't get hurt by the bomb.
And you always have to suspect the husband, right?
Right. But for me, the guy was like 12 feet away from the bomb.
Yeah, if he didn't want to be there, he would have not been there at all.
Yeah, why the fuck would you be there?
Right, right. And he didn't necessarily position her to stand in a certain place in the cafe to avoid being.
Right. He didn't go to the back room and open that.
Yeah,
I don't want to be
yeah.
there when you open it. No. So
Well,
I wouldn't suspect him at
surprise.
all.
Well, and then he took he was originally the one who got the package, and he shook
He
it.
shook it.
So, and he was seen to shake it. If you knew it was a bomb, I'm like, I'm not shaking it.
I wouldn't even put it in my hands.
No, I'm like, I'm not here today. I don't want that package. He knew his wife planned to open it. Like I said, there's no way I'd be in the restaurant. Mr. Poyer was in his 60s, and according to a coworker, Josie White, Paul didn't seem too interested in the restaurant. He left early Friday to go up north to a trailer. And now, I will also say about Josie White, remember this for later, this is Enoch Chisholm. That's his mother-in-law. So the police also learned that Nola recently came into some money, like we said. Her brother had passed away, and she was splitting the money with her sisters. The investigative team began to focus on Mr. Poyer. It was discovered that Paul had a long-standing girlfriend up north in a town called Barrington. But it didn't end with just this affair. Unfortunately for Mr. Poyer, he was quite the man whore. No offense, Mr. Poyer, if you're listening to this podcast and you're still alive. I think he'd be
Marshall?
like 106 years old. I don't know.
He was a player.
He was a player. Without going into too much detail, old boy was getting his dick wet on the regular, as I like to say, for years. Not only was he doing the nasty for years, but he was bringing male members from Marshall with him up to his trailer in Barrington to have fun with local girls. At one point in one of the interviews, Paul admitted to having relationships that involved sharing, as in sharing his partner, and relationships of a possible homosexual nature. I stopped counting all the partners that Mr. Poyer had at 9 because it just kept going and going and going. John Poyer, Paul's son, had not confirmed his father's affairs, but had heard rumors. And another possible motive that involved Paul and John was a life insurance policy that Nola had. Before joining the Air Force, John had worked for an insurance company and had prepared a policy insuring his mother. His father was a primary beneficiary and John was the contingent, so John would not have received the money. The policy was for $21,000, and apparently that would be like $150,000 today. So a significant amount at that time, but probably not for murder unless his father was in on it, because John would not have received any money.
Unless the dad was dead too.
Unless the dad was dead too. But it doesn't say that he was listed as contingent. Oh no, did I say that?
Yeah, you
oh,
said
yeah, I
that.
did say that. Okay, yeah, he was contingent. But I mean, you just blew up both your parents and you're the...
And you get $150,000? That is not worth blowing up your parents for.
No.
Well, maybe some people's parents, but not his. Probably.
No, I don't find it to be justified for someone to do that to their spouse just because they're having an affair.
No, and you're going to go to jail. I mean, you're going to be the first one suspected. I mean, if you're going to kill somebody in... Okay, if you're going to kill somebody in 1967, I'd have poisoned them.
They probably didn't have any good toxicology back then
Yeah.
to find that out.
I'd have poisoned them. Some cyanide. Arsenic. I don't know. Anyway. I mean, that's what I read that somebody might do back in 1967.
Those people that wear their clothes, plan their outfits, based on how they're going to drive somewhere.
Here's another thing about that. So I don't really do it anymore. I used to always carry a knife, but the difficulty with carrying a knife is of what utility am I carrying it for? Usually I prefer to carry a multi-tool, but what I have is a multi-tool that has so many tools on it now that it's very large. So, some people carry a knife to like cut stuff. Like I always do that too. I'm like, okay, this is for planning, but would I rather have a knife per se to stab the zombie in the head, or do I want a multi-tool that's got screwdrivers, wire cutter, pliers, and a knife. Not that the knife not being the primary tool.
I feel like you can justify carrying the multi-tool a lot more easily than you can justify carrying the knife, right? Because you never know when you might need to open a can of tuna or
Tighten up
unscrew
a hinge or
right,
something.
something.
But like I said, the problem is my multi-tool is so big. I need a smaller multi-tool. That's the problem.
But then it wouldn't be a multi-tool.
Well, I mean,
It'd
they
be
come in
a-
different sizes. Have you seen that? Look at the size. I mean, this is the size of my
Oh my
multi-tool.
gosh.
You could always throw that at somebody too. That's a good weapon.
Well, it is a multi-tool.
Right. Don't cut yourself.
I don't even know how that works.
Don't hurt yourself there. I suspect that Paul's affairs would be very difficult to conceal from his spouse, for one thing. If he was really having it with, if he was getting with that many women, and he was going up to Barrington every Friday for the weekend, I suspect that she knew. That's my big thing. He was fucking everything. No offense, Mr. Boyer, but you're a fucking dog, man. She had to have known, and maybe she didn't care.
Yeah.
Because apparently they most likely weren't having sex, and the townspeople, and I think there's no doubt either that Paul loved his wife. Okay, I think that they were maybe they just had an amicable relationship, almost like being brother and sister.
Well, she was so, and reading in there, she was so into her restaurant. She worked from morning until night and poured everything into that. She didn't have time for anything else.
Hey, there's always time for that.
4 o'clock in the morning before
Before the crows.
she gets up for breakfast
You can
crowd
make
at her
time.
restaurant.
I mean, how much time does it take in the first place?
Well, maybe for Mr. Pouyer, it takes a little longer.
Well, he had a lot of practice, so he was probably he was probably good at throwing the D, if you know what I mean. Let's see. Okay, so Mr. Poyer had so many relations. Like I said, I got tired of tallying them up, and so you can imagine, as a member of the investigative team, that they had to run down every single relationship that he possibly had to look for a motive to see if maybe this was a jealous lover that had killed Mr. Poyer's wife. One of the relationships Paul had with a woman made statements that she had a child with Paul, and perhaps that provided a motive. Maybe she was trying to get money from him. She had been known to ask for money from him before. But all of those leads were dead ends. The postal investigators were very interested in Mr. Poyer as the prime suspect, but the rest of the investigative team didn't think that he did it.
So maybe
That's-
the postal people were interested because they knew their worker, Donald, was an accomplice. So they were trying to get heat off him.
Oh, so you think that the federal postal workers were on the side of the postman?
If
an
they
even
all
bigger-
live,
that's
if
an
they
even bigger
live
conspiracy.
in the freaking small town, sure,
They don't,
why not?
But they don't.
But they don't.
The postal inspectors came from other areas.
Okay. So maybe not. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
All right, so like I said, Mr. Poyer was such a horn dog. He'd been involved with several women. He was also involved with several community men as friends that traveled with him to Barrington to get themselves some strange. Basically, what I'm saying is this: the investigation dug into the personal lives of the entire town, exposing their dirty little secrets, and
Now
revealed
the small town business comes out.
right. And this revealed a log of horny people that were probably dripping with STDs and had a huge market for penicillin. That's my medical opinion. Paul and John Poyer passed their polygraph and handwriting comparisons, by the way. The investigation. The first few weeks provided no real solid suspects and no real motive. The sexcapades in Barrington only proved to be a costly embarrassment, but had provided no significant evidence in the investigation. Running down every lead, responding to prank calls suggesting that, of course, some black person did it. Yep, that's what happened. And yes, there were racial tensions then, just as there are now. Yeah, people actually called and said Nola had received a threatening call, and it was clearly a black man on the other end.
So at that time, I wonder how many black people lived in Marshall. That would be interesting to know.
I'm going to guess none.
Probably none. I'm going to go with none too, or very few, if any.
Yeah. Let's see. The investigation required the use of handwriting experts, as they had writing examples on the wrapping of the bomb. The experts compared this writing to the writing on the package. So let's see here. So, the evidence. This is what they got. Okay? Recovered from the Tasty Cafe initially, small and large bits of brown paper, most likely the wrapper on the bomb, as some of the pieces were quite large. One piece was marked OOKS. They had bits of stamps and some pieces with writing. The red penciling on the wrapper had survived, and the player's home address was still legible. Smaller bits of brown paper that had a waxy coating, possibly the wrapping on the dynamite. Bits of masking tape from the wrapping of the package, small pieces of metal and splintered wood, an alligator clip with a piece of wire and some black electrical tape. This was embedded in the ceiling panels. Fragments from a Fisk brand battery only sold at Kmart stores, several screws, 5 small fragments of aluminum, a large strip of metal, wires, tiny spring. The autopsy, shrapnel, tiny pieces of metal, twisted pieces of aluminum. The crime lab was able to identify the wavy lines you see on your mail that is placed by the post office. The postmark was applied with a roller type assembly. They were able to determine that the package had been canceled by the rollers, meaning that it had to have come from Marshall, Michigan. Nola's murderer had been in town the day the bomb was mailed.
So Marshall has a Kmart, right? Did they have a Kmart back then too?
That I don't know.
So I wonder if that's from the same Kmart, like that is in Marshall.
I don't know. I don't know if they had a Kmart then. I would imagine they didn't.
Okay.
That would be my guess. I don't know, because I would imagine that probably most everything was in Battle Creek.
And some of these things that you just listed off, this is what they were able to.
This was recovered from the Tasty Cafe from the bombing,
So,
and some of it was recovered from Nola's body.
interesting that the impact was strong enough to split her in half, but yet you're still able to see some of these fine details.
Well,
On
as a
the
blast
package.
goes out, it expands, right? So you can kind of think of that like as a shotgun blast, right?
Mm-hmm.
The closer you are to a shotgun blast, the smaller the blast radius. The farther out, the larger the blast radius. So as the blast goes out from the package, it's small,
okay.
and it expands, taking that energy with it. So yes, you would get parts of even when we've blown stuff up. So we used to blow stuff up with claymore mines. So you would still find fragments of the claymore mine itself, but you could see a large blast radius.
Okay.
So it fans out.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, you won't completely obliterate everything.
Right.
So like how a firework explodes and you find like the little pieces,
pieces.
of all the
Yep.
little stuff,
Yep.
like that. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay, so the investigation required the use of handwriting experts, and they had those examples from the wrappings on the bomb from the package. The experts compared this writing to the package that they originally went, and they did find the package that contained the pills that had previously been sent to Nola. And it was determined that that writing on that package matched the writing on the package of the bomb. So clearly, someone had tried to kill her before. Because we'll get to what the contents of the pill were.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that.
So they surmised that this bombing was not the first attempt to kill Nola. When they sent when they sent the pills off for analysis, it came back that it was lye. So had she ingested that, it would have killed her.
But who in their right mind is going to take some random pills they
Right.
receive in the mail? So do you think, I wonder if she knew who they were from? If she knew, like, and she just didn't say anything? Or, like, why did she save them if she didn't know? She saved them because why?
Well, this was actually, you'll find out here that it actually was not the first package that she got, and it wasn't the second package she got. She actually got 3 packages. They had to run down some former criminals in the area. One of the criminals they brought in for questioning on August 28th of 1967 was Enoch Chisholm. He was described as a sullen, brooding man, 5'11" and 200 pounds. Certainly may have been imposing at that size. Called in because of his involvement in an arson a few years before the bombing. He was one of the few convicted felons in the area, and he was a known troublemaker. The county sheriff's department had been to his home several times for domestic disputes, known to have a temper, and his tie that was known to the Tasty Cafe was that his mother-in-law, Josie White, worked there. He knew no reason why anyone would harm Nola. He was asked to provide a sample of his handwriting. His demeanor changed at this request. He seemed nervous, sweating. He wrote very deliberately when he provided a handwriting sample, and his efforts were so nerve-wracked that he broke the pencil when writing. His explanation to the investigators that he was only educated at the 3rd grade level and his writing was not that good. The postal inspectors still insisted that Mr. Poyer was their guy. They even went to Arkansas to interview people that knew the Poyers. And of course, they worked for the federal government, so they had more money than the local investigators. And as a side note, the funeral for Nola was on August 21st, 1967, and there were several attendees to include family from Arkansas. It was one of the largest in recent memory for the community, and investigators were present as well, obtaining information like license plate numbers, guest names, etc. Okay, so the package that they found that was in the cupboard. It was a small box with a bottle of white capsules inside. It was addressed to Mrs. Poyer at her home address. The writing on this package seemed to be written with the same type of pencil and packaging in the bomb. This package, however, was postmarked in Detroit. Nola had told her friends about the pills. The label read as follows: 24 tablets, Edwards brand, Tranvex tablets, for relief of nervous tension, restlessness, irritability, non-habit forming, Edwards Drug and Chemical Company, Detroit, Mich distributors.
Where bombs come from.
Where bombs come from. Well, yeah, all the time. And in the package was a note that read, "Nola, take these for your nerves." And according to witnesses, this was not the first package of pills Nola had received. She did not know who sent them to her. She did not take them. Nola took the second set of pills to Carrington's pharmacy. She had apparently thrown the first package away. Like I said, the crime lab identified the pills as lye. Ingestion of the pills would have caused death. The commercial product most likely used to fill the capsules was Drano.
So someone's clearly trying to kill her.
Later on, they also recovered from the Tasty Cafe a small book labeled Atomic Shocking Book. This was a hollowed-out book with an electronic battery-driven device that delivered a shock when opened. Kind of ironic. Mr. Poyer did not know where the book came from. He assumed someone gave it to Nola as a practical joke, or perhaps she had gotten it through the mail. And then they wondered, could this have been used to trigger the bomb? I'm going to say no. It wasn't a cell phone.
Yeah, how would that even work?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
They didn't have bomb squads.
Okay.
They didn't have bomb squads and didn't know anything about bombs. Which is also kind of strange to me. It seems like, I don't know, maybe this was 1967. There was nobody in town who was a Korean War vet or a World War II vet who didn't know anything about explosives, or farmers that used, because back then you could buy dynamite at the hardware store. You could buy dynamite, you could buy blasting caps. No one knew anything about, like, no farmers knew or understood how dynamite worked and could have, like, assisted them in a little bit. I don't know.
Maybe they didn't want to get involved. I don't know. Who
In
knows?
the end, am I going to find out who did this? Am I going to find out who did this?
What I mean, did I say this was an unsolved mystery? This isn't an unsolved mystery. We don't do unsolved mysteries. I mean, we could, but I'm not going to. Like I said, it's not a fucking true crime podcast. What is Beef Man in the Dock about? It's my thing,
Good
man.
question.
It's my jam. It's my jam. It's what I do. It's my thing. All right, so evidence recovered from the Poyer home. Wiring in the basement that could possibly be used to make a bomb. 2 cans filled with gunpowder. Shotgun primers and loading equipment for loading your own shotgun shells. A light comedy novel called How to Murder Your Wife by Henry Williams. And, of course, that gave the postal inspectors a big old raging hard-on. Recovered from Paul's trailer in Barrington, 8 aluminum blasting caps used to set off dynamite. A partial roll of masking tape, 10 magazines of different types. Paul was questioned about these items that had been sent off to the crime lab, and he admitted little experience with dynamite. He had purchased materials to take out stumps near his trailer. You know, like I said, back when you could buy dynamite. You know, whoa, Grandma, tell me about the good old days. If I could just walk into a hardware store and purchase dynamite, the fun I could have.
Would you keep that in your pants pocket
Right. In case you...
along with your utility knife?
Well, no, I mean, dynamite sweats. You don't want to keep that, and that's how they get nitro. And how the sweat off of dynamite is nitroglycerin, right?
I don't know.
All right, well, anyway.
So anyway, not looking good for Mr. Poyer and his homemade bomb utensils and How to Murder Your Wife book. So not looking good for him.
Well, as the investigators dig a
Or-
little bit further,
Okay.
Nola had received threatening calls, probably from black men. She had had trouble with tenants over rent, most likely not black men. This is Marshall. Chronic complainer at the cafe that was never identified, a man fitting the same description, had frequented another cafe and was a complainer but had not been seen for months prior to the bombing. That would be little reason to blow somebody up. All
Because
right.
his eggs weren't done right.
Right. So we have to remember at this time, it was not like watching CSI. The handwriting experts viewed thousands of samples. That was their best evidence. That and the materials to make the bomb. There was a hair found on the tape, but without a suspect, there was no way to do a comparison. I don't know what kind of comparison they would have done then. And they could not do DNA testing then. Detective Kenny even went to the psych hospital in Kalamazoo to get an opinion from psychiatric professionals about what type of person they were looking for, and if any outpatients were potential suspects. And this was forward thinking for Detective Kenny, in my opinion, because there were no psychological profilers then. So the opinion of a Dr. Scheer was this. The individual was a male and a paranoid, most likely black. No, that's not in there. I'm just kidding. Most likely Hispanic, also not in there. If it could be established that the killer had a motive, he would be most likely be a psychopath as well. Mm-hmm. According to the doctor's perspective, however, motive was not considered important. The motive of a paranoid could go back to some insignificant factor or event within the last 10 years. Wrap your head around that. She could have stolen his Pez dispenser when he was like 40. All right. So you're looking for someone with a motive, but they may not really have one that you could understand.
Right.
So further, a paranoid would try to kill a victim without a direct confrontation. And there had been 3 attempts. The paranoid person would not stand out in public. He could be totally functional and hold down a job. He may blend into society. He could, however, be outspoken about certain topics and rage over insignificant events. He was also, in my opinion, unfortunately, not likely to commit suicide.
So, but did he plan what he wore? Like his pants? Just asking.
Where he was going to put his
Utility knife?
and the dynamite.
Was he wearing a belt?
All right, let me just say this. I have had this similar discussion with my friends who do jiu-jitsu, and they all say the same thing, that they wear specific clothes just in case. They have to defend themselves.
Okay.
The doctor felt that neither of the two men he knew of that were diagnosed with paranoia were viable suspects. And the handwriting samples that were submitted from these patients didn't match. So eventually the trail began to grow cold. Now, Myron Wood was one of the postal inspectors, and he was from Detroit. And the Detroit News at
Where
that time...
bombs come from.
Where bombs come from.
And the pills. The pills came from there, too. Just saying.
True. And they had a program titled The Secret Witness. And this program offered persons money for information related to crimes that led to convictions. Done anonymously. The persons used a 6-digit code instead of their name. He approached the paper and asked if they would be interested in offering assistance through their publication. This did kind of tick off the rest of the team, as Wood acted on his own without involving the others. The Detroit News ran 2 articles on September 20 and 21, complete with handwriting samples. The local papers in Calhoun County also ran articles. And a larger reward for information was offered. What's really funny is that the Marshall paper and the Battle Creek paper were mad that they were getting scooped by the Detroit News because they're so fucking awesome. Yeah, your publication is way better than the Detroit News.
Yeah. Nothing. We got nothing.
All right, so the articles provided the investigators with a new resource. A handwriting analyst contacted Myron Wood, the postal inspector, and offered her services. She provided an analysis of the person's handwriting on the pill package, and she was trained at she had a degree from the U of M. All right, so here is the interpretation. All right, formation. This is the actual writing itself. 35-degree slant. Interpretation. The writer is intensely emotional and expressive, an extrovert, impulsive, and moody. Ascending and descending baselines. Either writing under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or writer is manic, depressive, and excitable. Irregularity of spacing and size of letters. Either under the influence of drug or alcohol, or electrical activity in the brain is severely damaged. Angular strokes. Aggressive. Club-like eye dots. Brutal. Hooks at the beginning of letters. Greedy. Hooks at the ends. Tenacious. Low capital letters. Lack of self-assurance, usually caused by failure to succeed or youth and inexperience. The P in puyer is small, symbolic of low self-esteem of family last name. mind tent-like structures. I don't know what that means. V structures, large writing, and retracing. A quick-thinking, curious, and critical person who becomes frustrated because he cannot concentrate and therefore loses the value of his thinking ability. Precise punctuation. Excellent memory, fussy, and detail-minded. Death symbols show in X's. The writer, thinking in terms of death, usually forms X's the way this writer did in his printed M's and the number 8. So the analyst, Mrs. Ruth Bruce, summarized her findings. Because the writer began writing in suppressed formation and then broadened to unrestrained, irregular writing, it can be assumed that he was writing under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Basically a keen, alert mind, but has a erratic sense of proportion. And so his sharp mentality is used in a negative way. This writer is highly emotional and unsecretive, expansive and broad-minded, when either feeling in high spirits or intoxicated. The mostly uphill ascension of the handwriting indicates a feeling of exhilaration when writing caused by emotional mood, instability, or artificial stimulant. So her interpretation seemed to blend with that provided by Dr. Scherer from the Kalamazoo Psych Hospital.
I feel like if you were going to write out something that you knew was going to kill somebody, wouldn't you try to disguise your handwriting? I don't really understand that whole, like, writing sample thing, because I don't know, the handwriting analysis thing is confusing to me, because if I was going to do that, I would not write like how I normally write.
But
right?
if he's a psychopath,
He's not thinking that
he's
way?
arrogant,
Okay.
in my opinion. So their handwriting on the package wouldn't change. They're going to write in their natural handwriting. They never think they're going to get caught. If you're a true psychopath, what psychopath or sociopath thinks they're going to get caught?
Yeah.
They think they're smarter than them. Yeah.
And I think back to the question that I posed earlier about how a bomb actually works. In probably in many people's mind, a bomb just means stuff just blow up, and it's blowing up in its entirety. So I initially would thought my writing, I don't gotta worry about this wrapper. It's gonna explode. So they're not gonna be able to find any evidence. I'm in the clear. So depending on their intellect, or how knowledgeable they are about how those things actually work, the mechanics of it, they may not have thought that it would have mattered.
Yeah, that's possible too, because like you said, one would assume if a bomb goes off, everything with the bomb goes off.
Yep.
And it's gone. But it's not. It's just changed. It's just shrapnel now. So you're still going to have some stuff. You're going to have stuff that's obliterated with it. The accelerant or the actual component of it that is the bomb. You've got the blasting cap. You can't just... Dynamite doesn't just blow up without a blasting cap. It has to have a fuse or a blasting cap or whatever. It has to have an igniter, or it has to have some sort of blasting device. But yeah, you still have the matter that remains. Just in what form is it in? Is it a bunch of shrapnel? Is it pieces? Is it, how much of it is actually intact? You don't know.
Did they get a writing sample from the mailman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So, but again, it goes back to, you still have to think, if I would assume that the person who wrote on the package is going to write in their own hand, but I'm not going to assume they're going to give a handwriting sample in the same handwriting. Because if they're smart enough, they're like, okay, well, they've got a sample of my handwriting. I'm going to try to alter my handwriting.
Change it, right.
But and I don't know how it is now, or what, I'm thinking now is different, but I think that because there's so many advances in the handwriting field, and I don't even think that's submissible evidence anymore. I'm not sure. Like it's one of those, like polygraph is not it's not like hard evidence. But I think a true handwriting expert would probably say you really can't alter your handwriting.
Well, and then
You can try, but they can still tell that that's your handwriting if they're really good at it.
Yeah, because they can tell you're changing the shape of something, but you still have like the underscore of like the way you usually write.
True.
And the important thing would be is if you suspected anybody, is you wouldn't just get that handwriting sample that they provide you right then.
Right.
You'd get their driver's license, signature,
Right.
all the,
checks, correspondence, whatever.
And so for me, it would almost be smart to disguise your handwriting on that box. So then that way, any other time that they're asking you for your signature, if they're sitting there watching you write, you can write
your real signature.
With ease. Of course, you'll be, nervous in some way, but it'll be more of ease than trying to disguise it, because now you disguise, you got to try to match that every time they ask you for a handwriting sample.
Which makes you wonder how much was planned. Did he really plan to kill her? Was that really long thought out plan? Or was it something that was done in like 12 hours? He's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to kill this lady. I've had it for whatever reason. Because if you thought about it over the long term, like you said, would you either disguise it, or I wouldn't even disguise it. I would have typed it.
Right.
Or
had someone else write it.
Had somebody else write it, or taken cut out letters from a newspaper, or I don't know, I would have done something, or roller it, something. They had how they the printing press, right? You could roll stuff. So that's possible. I wouldn't have written in my regular hand.
No.
So anyway, the impulsive nature of the writer combined with the paranoid description from the doctor gave the investigative team a description of the criminal that they were looking for. The published handwriting samples were recognized right away by two persons in Marshall. Shirley Lawcock, and this is from the articles, Shirley Lawcock was a secretary of attorney Ronald DeGraw. Her husband had purchased a boat from a person already interviewed by the investigative team. So little did the investigative team know they'd already interviewed the murderer and let him go. She and her husband compared the writing on the title to the printed article and knew it matched perfectly. She informed her boss, whom had also suspected the same person. As an attorney, he and his staff looked for any paperwork he may have had that was filled out by the suspect. Mr. DeGraw, the attorney, then called the postal inspectors and told them he had proof that the person they suspected was the bomber. The inspector informed the attorney that they had already ruled him out, but agreed to look at the boat title. Myron Wood viewed the title and then put it in front of Detective Dabowski, who said, "That's the one." Wood informed DeGraw of the reward offered and recommended that he send the tip into the secret witness program at the Detroit News. The investigative team now had a suspect in Nola's death, the same man named on day one as a potential suspect, the same man that had broken his pencil when providing a handwriting sample, and his name was Enoch Dalton Chisholm.
It's pretty messed up.
And that concludes part one.
How do you feel about that, Tremonde?
Ooh,
your eyes just got huge. It's just getting
intense.
interesting, isn't it?
That's it? That's all you guys are saying? Is this interesting? What,
So,
nothing?
the investigators ruled him out and said, no, that's not him. And
Why the
now
handwriting
they
samples?
have to backtrack and now say why it is. Or eat face that they were wrong.
Well, you have to remember, the only evidence they had was the handwriting sample and the destroyed bomb and the pill box. So all they were going off of was handwriting samples. And what did they do? They did anything, it's like the movie, The Usual Suspects. So once they've got all the people directly attached to Nola that they're ruling out, they pull in all the usual suspects, and Enoch Chisholm happened to be one of them. But he didn't seem to have any tie to Nola directly that anybody could find out about, except his mother-in-law worked at the Tasty Cafe, or the Tasty Shop, or the Shop, or the Stacy Sandwich, or whatever it's called.
So that links him, sort of.
But the biggest problem is, what's the motive? Who has a motive? I mean, Mr. Poyer has a motive. But who delivered the package?
The postman.
The postman.
Mm-hmm.
Why did the postman go about his day and not investigate the bomb?
So does the postman know Enoch Chisholm?
Everybody knows Enoch Chisholm.
Well, okay.
He's the biggest douche in town.
He's the biggest douche in town. But
He's
are they
an
friends?
arsonist.
Are they related? Are they...
The postman's not mentioned again.
Right.
Right. But are we just saying that money is the motive for Mr.
Poyer?
Yeah.
Possibly.
But I feel like he probably would get the money anyway because he's married to her and they seem happily ever after.
Yeah.
So he would be part of getting the money anyway.
Because from what it sounds like, right now or prior to her dying, he was having his cake and eating it too. So it didn't really seem as though like he needed to have a reason to get rid of her. Unless anyone can justify that they were having marital problems or what have you.
Right. And she was very, obviously, Miss Poyer was close to her community, her church, the people that she worked with. She had friends. She didn't complain about Paul at all.
Right.
And so that's why I think that she probably knew. I mean, if the whole town of Marshall knew that what he was doing, and it sounds like they did, she knew too. So like you said, he probably had a pretty good life. You know, he worked at the cafe, Monday through Friday, and then went up north to do whatever he wanted to do, and she was cool with it. And she ran the restaurant. And it didn't look like she was ever going to retire or ever sell the restaurant. She that was her life's work, and that was what she enjoyed. She liked doing it.
So they have no confessions from like the priests or anything.
Like I said, the only thing they have is they do have sometimes that people said that she had received some threatening phone calls. No one really remembers them. They just, said that maybe she did. There was maybe some customers occasionally that complained, but that was it. She didn't seem like she was shook about anything.
Right.
But still, though, why? My biggest thing is if she received 2 packages of pills before, someone was after her. Why wasn't there more done about it leading up to the bombing?
Right. Did she go to the police with any of those, or is there any reports about any of those? She talked to the pharmacy about them, but
Right.
Did she tell anybody else about them?
She told people where she got her hair cut and all these other, they're all the ones that told her to go to the pharmacy and see what it was. And one lady actually tasted some of the contents and said that it was burning, and she said that it was obviously poison or something like that.
So if you'd known that, why wouldn't you do something?
Exactly.
Good question.
Exactly.
Why didn't she do anything?
I guess no offense to her because she's dead, but that's kind of dumb. Like if you think someone's trying to poison you, you do nothing about it.
See, having read the whole book, knowing who did it, and all that other stuff, I still have lots of questions in my mind. And obviously this is part 1. I'm just presenting the evidence, but I wanted to get everybody else's discussion because for me, even though I know who the murderer was, and though he denies it at the end of the book or whatever, I still think there's too many loose ends.
Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered and what ifs.
I mean, was Nola really sent these packages? Yes, because we know we have the corroboration from people there, and they have the postmark on that package that shows that it was sent from Detroit. So she really did receive them, but why didn't she do anything about it? And why can't the postal workers remember Mr. Poyer going there and complaining to them about this package that was sent to Mrs. Poyer? Are they covering it up for the postman?
That's what I said in the beginning.
Well, for a second, I thought that maybe she was trying to commit suicide in some way. But then you reveal that it's a man. But I was thinking that maybe she was like sending these packages to herself to maybe kind of get some attention and maybe, I mean, I would hate for someone to take their own life in that way just to have their name printed in the paper, but like that's their moment to have their name in lights, because I don't get why you would have these pills sent to you and get them tested and find that they're poison and not do anything about it. And then for her to walk to the back of the kitchen, of the cafe, what was the reason for that?
That's an interesting point.
Like just some of those things, just like, okay, why did she do this? Why was this done?
Yeah, why didn't she open it in front of everybody?
Right there,
Well, maybe she thought it was another package of pills or something like that. Since she was getting them already, she didn't want to open it in front of everybody.
But she said maybe it's from John, who's her son. Apparently, maybe she'd send him books before. He'd send her books before.
Right. I don't know. That's interesting.
But then if that was the thing, maybe it could be a packet from John. Then I would be asking, okay, let's see packages that John has sent and ask him, how would you send them? And would you send packages to your parents and not have it labeled?
Yeah, there would be no reason not to have a return address.
Yeah.
And return addresses from military bases are quite long and extensive. And they usually want you to put an address on there. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. For me, to me, my mind goes to conspiracy on this story, not to just one person.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's just there's too much variability, and I think the mailman still had something to do with it, or I just don't understand why he didn't care, or like I don't know if I delivered a package that killed somebody, even not knowing what it is. I still think you might be a little messed up and have a little bit more emotion after you heard that. Oh, nope, just gonna go on about my day.
Well, I mean, he had no proof that there was a bomb. He just thought it was a gas leak, but still, why would somebody say that to the postman? Because it's not funny. You know, hey man, this ain't Detroit. Please don't deliver bombs to people. You just delivered one. So the only reason I think, I'm not saying the postman did it. I'm just saying there's some loose ends that weren't tied up for me from reading the book. Thankfully, this is just part 1, and I will present part 2, and hopefully it will be the conclusion also. But that's the groundwork laying for this entire story so far.
I'm suspicious about the postman now too, because I'm thinking if I was to deliver something to your neighbors next door who I have absolutely no idea who they are, and if someone comes back and say, "Yo, this house next to your friend just blew up," and I know that I just dropped something off, like I'm going to go back and check because it's like, are you serious? And knowing that like I possibly had some hand in that, and the last thing that I would want to do is keep walking in the opposite direction because it's going to make me look more suspicious. So who do I need to talk to clear my name?
You're right. Yeah, not my problem. Lots of people need their TV guides today.
And that's somebody you just said. That's to me your name. My neighbors that you don't even know.
Yeah.
He knew her.
Yeah.
Like he saw her every day. He ate there. He delivered her mail every day. I'd feel even worse. And now you got to face Mr. Pouillier again and know that you killed his wife. I mean, he didn't really, but you delivered the bomb that killed his wife.
Well, and nobody's saying there's not that people don't have lots of psychological traumas. It's just like I said, though, when people say, oh my God, he was carrying a bomb, he was so lucky. Okay, but was he? Mm-hmm. Maybe he just constructed the bomb and delivered it. Who knows? Not saying you did it, Mr. Postman. I'm just saying there's not enough in the book about your interview or anything.
And I think it's messed up that they don't ever go back and interview him anymore.
Yeah,
that's
makes
the
no
end of the
sense.
story with him.
No sense.
Well, I mean, the book is a book. You can't write down everything that happened in a book. And I'm not explaining everything that happened in the book. I'm just saying that was pretty much the end of the Postman story. And again, I thought it was a little bit odd that the fire department was called out. Now, they say in the book that everybody knows when their mail is coming from the postman. You could set your clock by the postman. Mm-hmm. So if the person who constructed the bomb knew when the postman was going to be delivering the bomb, they could have called out the ambulance, or they could have set the fire. This was a fire, and the person that they bring in is a known arsonist. He could have set the fire, called the fire department. They get dispatched to the fire. He knows when the bomb's going to go off. Bomb goes off. Half the fire department's called away.
That's interesting. Definitely. They can't tell where the call came from. Like they didn't have any way of telling that back then.
Well, everything was so 1967 should have been maybe still switchboard. I don't know. Because when I was a kid, we still had party lines. So possibly there was switchboard then. I don't know.
So what does that mean? Do they know where it came from? Like someone called and said, I need to call the fire department?
Yeah.
Is that how it works?
That's it.
Like,
Yeah. And gave an address, whether it was the people who were at the address or they could have been the ones who called it in too, obviously. The fire just had to be set.
Right.
But if he timed the fire
Just right.
just right, when he knows the bomb is going to be delivered,
fire department is tied up.
fire department's tied up.
So he was sitting somewhere outside the cafe,
Probably.
watching
Maybe.
the postman walk up the street.
Or he just knows because he's the one setting the fire. And then the people
So
who
he's
are
been-
involved in the fire are the ones calling like, holy shit, our shit's on fire. And he knows when the bomb's going to go off. And why be in town when the bomb goes off unless you need to see it for validation?
Interesting points.
Very.
These are interesting points. Interesting points are always brought up in Beat Man on the Dock. I thank you.
What does Doc have to say about that?
I don't know. He's a really far away now.
He's been sleeping a lot. We bore him.
Okay, so here's what I'd like to say. Here's my observations from the story. I've been to Marshall, Michigan.
And Mrs. Poirier had a nice rack.
I know Marshall, Michigan. You, sir, are no Marshall, Michigan. What the fuck does that even mean? Oh, sorry. Marshall. Yeah, there's some tail there, man. Yeah, I've cruised that strip, and there's some pretty nice tail. Oh, were you even listening to the story? Oh, yeah. Marshall, Michigan, and tacos. Good stuff. Okay. Well, and that's, again, an expert commentary from Paper Doc. Thank you, Paper Doc, for that input. All right. Well, now that was the conclusion of part 1. And now at the conclusion of my episode, I would like to once again tell folks out there that, as you well know, that the intro and the outro tracks for Beav Man in the Dock are written by my son, Skylar Beavers. And he just released a new track that I mentioned on the last podcast. And that track is called Level Up, and it is available for listening. And you can hear that or find that on SoundCloud and on Spotify. And you can purchase it also on the Apple Music app on the App Store. So I will play at the end of this, instead of the regular outro, at the end of this podcast today, I will play a sample of that song, and you can't have the whole fucking thing because you need to go fucking buy it. That's why. All right? So for my listener out there, please enjoy that outro track. And from me, the Beav Man, I would like to say thank you to the beautiful Swan and the stylish and handsome Tremonde for joining me today, and the expert commentary, as always, provided by Paper Doc. And to all of you in my listening audience, I say, adios, mooch fuckos. What, you guys got nothing?
Adios. I don't speak Spanish, but I can say adios.
I'm going to say my usual. Bye, Swan.
Okay, and as promised, here for you, I have an excerpt of the song Level Up by Skylar Beavers. Enjoy.
I'm the trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring.
Skyline Films thing, what's up, man?
Stepping out the house, man, that shit's a rare occurrence. I ain't fucking with the wave, I ain't trying to make it current. I'm just trying to chase my dreams, I just wanna make it perfect. Been a while since I dropped it, I ain't do that shit on purpose. Okay, but I do this shit for myself. Okay, yeah, and I do this shit for my health. Oh hey, you just wanna see me gone, well, that's fine, we don't really get along well. I just party in my house, skipping all the functions, playing on my Switch, Pikachu chasing hunches, hitting like the hunchback, spitting Notre Dame. I've been counting all my racks, both them on the video games. Leveling up, bitch, that shit ain't nothing. You ran to a label like they'll do something. You ain't making heat even if you were an oven. I'll be underground, yet I still hear him buzzing.
Credit score 716, going 80 on the dash. Pedal to the floor, I don't ever stop for gas. I got spending money, but bitch don't ever ask. And I got the whack flows, but I think that they will pass.
Allow me to destroy your gallery. Bullshit. Bullshit. Derivative.
Playing games inside till the sun shines bright. Got that money coming in, but my pants still tight. Plays don't change me, haze won't faze me. I don't want fame and I'm way too lazy. I'm wavy like the ocean, that shit's fire. I'm soaring so high up, call me freaking flyer. Bags in my eyes, I admit they ain't designer. Once I pop off, I'll still shop at Meijer. Binging Futurama cause I think that it's lit. All these dudes just wanna talk, but I don't speak shit. I don't wanna make a hit, I just wanna keep it real. All the crap that I've been writing, that's just how I really feel. I just party in my house, skipping all the functions, playing on my Switch, Pikachu chasing hunches, hitting like the hunchback, spitting Notre Dame. I've been counting all my racks, both them on the video games. Leveling up, bitch, that shit ain't nothing. You ran to a label like they'll do something. You ain't making heat even if you were an oven. I'll be underground, yet I still hear him buzzing.
Credit score 716, going 80 on the dash. Pedal to the floor, I don't ever stop for gas. I got spending money, but bitch don't ever ask. And I got the whack flows.